Step number one of the outward mindset pattern is to see others. Strive to understand others' needs, objectives, and challenges. This is their outside triangle over here. So peers, manager, reports, whatever those relationships might be in a work environment or a home environment for that matter. What are their headaches, issues, constraints? What are their objectives? What are they trying to achieve? What are they running into? Do I understand those things? Step number two is adjust efforts. Having been curious enough to understand and learn about some of those things, what am I doing with that information? Am I just asking questions so that I seem like the kind of boss that's interested in people? Am I more interested in being seen as being curious or actually being curious? If I'm actually truly curious, I'm going to do something with that information, not just celebrate the fact that my whole staff just saw me being curious. Step number two is adjust efforts. Given what I learn about others, adjust my efforts in order to be more helpful. Pause and consider the things that I'm doing. I might realize that some of these challenges and things they're dealing with, I'm actually aggravating those or adding to those things. But I've never known that because I've never expressed a level of curiosity in their outside triangle. This, by the way, is why people leave organizations. You probably know this. They don't quit organizations, they quit bosses, quit coworkers. Oftentimes, again, if I'm seeing the people that work for me as vehicles, I'm not the remote bit curious about their outside triangles. It's their job to understand mine. Because of that, little by little, I'm doing things without even realizing that they're actually getting in their way or making it more difficult for them to do their job because I'm ignorant as the challenges they're facing as they're trying to do their job. Step number three, measure impact. Measure and hold myself accountable for the impact of my work on others. Just simple. And again, sometimes the most profound things are the simplest. It's actually executing this that allows us to completely transform our organization and reduce the fetters and the constraints that aren't allowing us to be the best version of our organization. Allow that brain power and potential to be amplified and displayed. So we want to show you a video of an organization that made this effort. So this is Andy. So he's Citrix. This is another Arbinger client. He's going to talk about their effort to utilize this pattern. His department was in a collusion or a conflict with another department. Again, think of your practice with the DSO, your team with vendors, your whatever. You're within your own team itself, with staff members, whatever it might be. Andy recognized that we need to end this collusion. So I'm going to use this SAM process and see if we can end the collusion. He says we were crossing swords. Okay, you ever cross swords? So he decided he was going to utilize this system to see if they could remedy that situation. I want you to just watch for the three things here. Watch for the see others, that's the S. Watch for the adjust efforts, that's the A. And watch for the M. And I want you to think about your own teams and organizations as you're doing this, okay? And then we'll just debrief afterward and wrap things up. Here we go. So they created this new sign-off document, and that document took into account the worries and concerns of this other team, given the impact that they were having on them. See, they were moving from this place where they only held themselves accountable for their actions. They moved to where they're holding themselves accountable for the impact of those actions as well. So they made a change in the document, said in order for us to launch, it's got to go through this, taking others into account, rather than me just mandating, this is what we need to do, here's the process. It was co-created. Now, what happened? He went to him, it was interesting. He said, failed 4, 5, and 9. And what was the response to that? In other words, it wasn't about 4, 5, and 9. It was about this other team feeling as though they were never taken into account. The fact that they felt taken into account and that was acknowledged and understood and they were making an effort, that was the thing that they needed. There's going to be failures and problems along the way. There's going to be those disagreements that Ken was talking about along the way. Don't run away from those, but are we taking each other into account? All right, and then there was one other adjustment that was made in the new rhythm and routine of how things function. And imagine a scenario where you sit down with that individual and simply ask, what problems am I causing for you? And then to sit back and listen without accepting a million invitations to go into the box or get defensive. When we find ourselves getting to that point, that's when innovation and collaboration can take place. Curiosity is what leads to collaboration and innovation. If you want to be more collaborative and innovative, stop talking about collaboration and innovation and get curious. All right, so there were some metrics. What were the metrics that came out of this? Okay, so they freed up 500,000 pounds. 500,000 pounds. That was not the intent when Andy went in. They just wanted to get to where they weren't having conflict anymore. And yet as they began to see that, see things clearly, allow things to surface and to begin to deal with reality for the first time, they ended up freeing up all kinds of money that was being wasted and spent in all kinds of other places. There was another metric. Okay, so yeah, that 500,000 pounds in freed up resource had nothing to do with employment. It was just right there. They were able to pull that right out without any new employees or anything else. Certainly you measure problems and mistakes within your practice and within your teams. What would that be like if those fundamentally dropped 50, 60, 70%? Would that be a good thing? Listen, think about it this way. Andy's team, by simply choosing to exercise SAM, ended up saving 500,000 pounds. Pause and consider this. What was their inward mindset costing them financially? 500,000 pounds. The only thing that changed was the mindset shift that allowed them to get curious and begin to adjust efforts. And once that took place, suddenly they saw all kinds of wastes, all kinds of problems and issues. They were able to eradicate them. There's an enormous power in beginning to see people as people. As we wrap this up, my hope, as you take this away, again in this kind of limited and condensed version here, is that you pause and consider every time you've got a conflict or a problem and you're feeling frustrated toward another individual and you feel absolutely certain that you know who's to blame. Recognize that you're in the box. You're going there. You're not seeing things clearly. You're seeing things in a way that absolve you of responsibility and place the blame squarely at somebody else. And in some respects, that is the height of playing a victim card. There's true victimhood in the world. It shouldn't be in those settings. We're really saying all the problems and solutions are outside of my reach. When we're blaming somebody else 100% for something, we're simply saying, my action plan to hopefully resolve this is for them to wake up one morning and realize they've been wrong all along and apologize to me. That's my plan. It sounds pretty silly when we say it out loud. The other option is to pause and consider my part in things. Change the way that I see them by getting curious about them. Change the very way that I see it. And as you walk away, you've got an incredible organization here, a North American Dental Group, that is invested. Again, it was interesting in my first initial conversations with you to feel that, but then to come and see that validated in spades, to see the level of interest they have in you as individuals, in your people as individuals, and in this almost family type of a situation. Never forget to focus on the soil. They provide all kinds of strategic tools and methods and approaches and systems and processes. Never forget to ask yourself, am I planting those things in toxic soil? Or am I actually doing my job to increase the fertility of the soil? I know that as you do that, you'll see a tremendous amount of success and you'll see wastes disappear that you never even recognized were waste before.